second?
Second.
First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Opens Meeting Act is posted right here behind me. Roll call, Dr. Thor.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Tim.
Yep.
Trent.
Yep.
Myself, yes, and Krista is excused. Okay, I'll approve the consent agenda. Start out with last month's minutes. $1 for anybody that can find a mistake in Kelly's work.
$1 for each mistake, you said?
Any mistake.
Kelly.
Same difference.
Deal for next meeting.
Yeah. Let's make me some money.
Do the Andrea.
Don't get the $10.
You know, that's all right. We'll move on to the financials. When's the last time we saw a $20,000?
I don't know.
I don't
heard
think
one.
since I've been here.
Yeah, so we went from
Maybe
what
30.
last month to, just, you know, we have about 10 annually, about 10 very large, you know, claims that just are routine annually. And had a couple last month and none this month.
Well, and ESU's not in here either. They won't have
Yeah.
the final bill until probably August.
So,
That
I mean,
will-
it's just a,
That'll be a big one.
We brought more into the lunch program than what we spent.
not intended to be a money maker, but we did, you know, honestly, we had a lot of transportation expenses. And our overall expenses were higher than if we'd have been running normal lunch. We fed a lot more kids. And so, I mean, it will more than cover our expenses, which is nice. You know, that's- they have- We did, or will.
We did.
We did move the money that we transferred to lunch 2 months ago.
The 20
We moved
grand.
that back to general. We can't carry a $60-some thousand balance in our lunch account because, you know, the Department of Ed will throw up a huge stink on that. So we just moved that money back. We didn't need that out of general fund this year.
Yeah, and and I did pull down that review that we have to do, and there's a lot of things I'm gonna need from Linda as well, but I'll let you look it over.
A lot more oversight, obviously, with the program that covered those expenses.
Because we'll get an audit on it. They said have the documents ready because we're gonna need these, and they send us some very big zip files that they're gonna need, so.
Do you have to have proof from any of the students that you're feeding? I mean,
No.
No, just
Just
numbers,
numbers,
what
just
we
counts.
fed them, what the plans were, those types of things.
Now, if they were to see that we only ordered, you know, 1,000 brown bags, but we claim we sent out 20,000 meals, then that would be something they'd probably catch and question us on.
Big bags, big families.
2 meals a bag, come on.
Big families.
It was true, quite often.
Enjoy the building fund while it lasts, because the money's already gone.
It won't be over $1 million, maybe.
Okay, we'll move on to the claims if there's nothing. Financials.
We are starting to get a lot of our teacher supply invoices in, but with the early meeting, checks are generally cut by Thursday morning, so that would have only been, what, June 4th? So that's one of the reasons why we're probably a little light this month, too.
There'll be, yeah, significant claims next month. Variety of vendors, obviously, and just, you know, like Kelly says, teacher requests for the school year.
So are you gonna move some money out of the activities fund? Is there much money this year?
Well, we were looking at the interest, the balance in the interest account. That's up to the board where you want to, how you want to, or who you want to subsidize, or what account you maybe want to subsidize.
Does that get used to support the sports programs? Because usually that always runs in the red anyway,
Yeah.
so it'll work its way down.
It does, it does. Those are all different line items, obviously, of the same account.
Okay. approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
Second. Yeah. First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Discussion item, summer maintenance update.
It took them 4 days to do all the demo. That's obviously the easy part. Putting it back together starts Monday. Brian even suggested that he might be done by the end of the month. So, because he only has, I think, one sub that works for him, just an electric company, but several dudes from this electrician outlet. So he didn't run into anything he didn't anticipate, as everything was revealed, above the ceiling. So by the July meeting, I think we'll probably be cleaning up over there. Thursday, the telehandler's coming to move the rooftop unit, which will come the next week, so that's in progress. Jake's got his things ordered for the ag shop. So it's all moving. If you didn't get a chance to go over to the high school, it's a beautiful site. I mean, it is. It'll look, and he's going to clean up several things when they kind of, they had some goofy spots and some of that, but it will look brand new like most of the rest of it.
So I remember from the past, the rooms between Mr. Yelk and I think Mr. Schumacher, that was
Yeah.
a built-in wall,
Yeah.
that was one room.
We're
gonna put something above there while it's apart.
We're gonna definitely try to soundproof that a little bit more. We did see that they did insulate that wall. That was a movable wall originally, and then 20 years ago, there's now a sheetrock wall, and there is insulation in that, but there's still 3 feet to the ceiling, and that's where all the noise goes. So, looking at it with Gail, he's spectacular at figuring stuff out. So it will be better. It won't be soundproof. Unfortunately, we can't just go straight up because we've got the ceiling joists up there. But we'll do something to try to soundproof that just a little bit.
So when Chad decides to quit teaching, that's.
We'll get a soft-spoken teacher on the other side. So, yeah, it's good. Brian and his crew they came and worked 12 hours a day and for 4 days. And
That's one nice thing about getting a company from out of town too, is they come and they stay and they work while they're here. They don't go home at 5 o'clock, so they don't have a place to go home.
yeah. So, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if anybody has any questions on what's going on. I mean, it will be, I think when folks come in, they'll hopefully recognize that it's cleaner, brighter. It'll look like this, essentially.
So is Tom's room the only thing that isn't torn apart?
We have, Gail and I went through, and there's several closets or adjoining rooms that there's no teaching and learning that goes on in there. If it wasn't an office, we weren't going to mess with it. So we saved some 900 and some square feet from the bid that we want to move into the weight room. So we want to drop that ceiling in there because the south entrance is technically not the 77 building. So, but we wanted to do that space. There's also a couple things that there's 5 old ventilators that we're just going to remove because they were just eyesores and things that weren't being used. So Brian said, "Yeah, well, my crew can do that." Well, no, I think Gail can handle that. He took the heat register off the wall as you come in that south side, just to clean things up. So there were a couple of minor things, but there's some space that we thought, we're not going to do this. We don't need to do that. We want to shift those resources to the weight room, which will be a little more complicated. But he's looking at dropping a cloud ceiling in, which means it'd be 3 foot from the perimeter of the wall, just kind of suspended down about 15 feet from the ceiling. So it'll finish that room off a little bit. We need new ceiling fans throughout, so Gail and I are shopping for those. Because we can't put up the old ceiling fans and sagging blades from 20 years ago.
But that computer room won't get done, will it?
Yes.
They haven't tore it out yet. But I see there's a lot of stuff in there.
Tom's room, let's see, we put lights in there, but I don't know that we're going to replace the tile and grid in there.
Oh, you already did lights previous?
we're going to put lights in. Because we had a couple of them where like, okay, we need new lights, but the tile and grid is fine.
Because I just seen they hadn't done anything in there. I also saw there's a lot of computers and stuff in there too, so I think they're just waiting. Okay, number 8, review board policy series 502 and then 504.2.
Okay, the 502 series, Kyle and Heather might have a couple suggestions for some language changes. So if we start at 50201, I don't have anything, and there's nothing statutorily that requires us to change any of the language on this. The one that might require a little more conversation is the option enrollment, which is 50202. But do you have any questions or suggestions on 50201 or 502.015? Option enrollment is a pretty common practice, obviously, in the state of Nebraska, guided by the Department of Ed, with pretty strict deadlines for dates for requests and so on. Most of every school district in the state has to deal with either or, request to option out or to option in. The controversy usually is not whether a school releases a student after the 15th of March. It's whether the school district that they want to option into will accept them, because they don't have to. And the Department of Ed did issue some more guidelines a couple of years ago on you can't just say no arbitrarily to somebody. And most school districts don't. If they have an IEP, that's always the first question, that they want to know. If somebody says, I live in a different district, but I want to come to your school district. Well, does the student have an IEP? Because if they do, then those are special services and can be, just nominally more resources required, or it could be tens of thousands of dollars. So school districts make decisions based on whether they can adequately serve that child that wants to come in, because they're not entitled to come in. They're not entitled to go to a school district outside of their residential district.
But doesn't some money go with that student?
No.
It doesn't? I thought some
Well,
districts
you
were.
have net option. So, it's you're either positive or negative.
Okay.
We're underwater on that. We have more students that option out than option in. That's kind of the discussion that goes with the option enrollment. It's usually not a circumstance where the parents might appeal a decision made by a local school district if they say, no, we're not going to approve your request to option into our school district. It's somewhat rare that you see that, but you need to have a good reason to say no to somebody, not just, well, they have an IEP and we don't want to have to pay the extra dollars, take those resources away from our kids that live in our district. Because obviously the property tax dollars from that student go to their residential district. Those property tax dollars do not follow that student. So, this one is discussed annually at the Department of Ed and in the unicameral, and then it's also obviously tied to extracurricular eligibility with the NSAA. So I don't know, Kyle, 90% of kids want to option just based on extracurricular activities? Probably not 90%, but I bet it's a majority.
It's very seldom because of their learning. It's either a teacher or an activity or.
Yeah. If somebody thinks they had bad experience or were mistreated, they might request to go to a different school district, and that happens. Greener grass, But we have students that come to us because they hear good things or they're fleeing bad things. It goes both. It just goes both ways. It's just every circumstances, similar but different. So, any questions on 50202? I know when we get to 031, Mrs. Thompson might have some thoughts about some language that we may do differently, whether it's, not necessarily whether it's language that needs to change based on statute or the law, but just based on common practice or what we do, as long as it's not in violation of statute.
Right. Do we want to go there now? Yeah. Okay. So basically what I'm looking at in 502031 is down in paragraph 5, where it says in the discretion of the, if we want to keep it at superintendent, we sure can, or if we want to change that to superintendent or the administrative team, either way. But I would say the big changes would come on the next page, just because these are not the practices that we've had. So we are keeping with the statutes, with A, B, and C. We're making sure that any child who will turn 5 by July 31st, they are able to enroll. B, yep, we make sure that that is a possibility. And then C, we've already approved a test for children, and I've already tested a child that is able to go into kindergarten next year. But some things that we have not done, so we've not required, now that this year, we've not required families to go and get an early entrance to kindergarten packet from the administrative office. So they simply made the request. And I also did not require a reference letter to be written about the child. So those are things that I maybe feel are a bit excessive and unnecessary.
Who would provide that reference letter?
It says that someone who is well acquainted with the child but not a relative.
Yeah.
So I'm just not quite sure, would you go to your neighbor and say, hey, will you write Charlie a reference letter to get her into kindergarten early? That just
It's weird.
doesn't seem like something we need to have parents do, especially if we're already having a parent request it. So they're having to go through the steps to request it. We're going through the steps of testing the child. I don't think we need a reference letter as well. So it would be my recommendation on the second page to take out paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, to just strike those completely, because those have to do with the reference letter. And then in the 5th paragraph, it says the assessment request, and then it says reference letter, parent questionnaire. I would cross out reference letter and parent questionnaire. And then it says an additional documents. So basically there's quite a bit on this. So if you'd like me to rework it and bring it back to you next board meeting, or if you're comfortable just striking those 3 paragraphs, I'm good either way.
When did it get so hard to get into kindergarten?
I know.
Because they're essentially entitled.
I don't.
Once they reach age 5,
Yes.
by the end of July, you, by law, are entitled to go to kindergarten. And if you are going to reach age 6 by the 1st of January, you are required to be in kindergarten. So that is kind of strange language, and thus the reason that every 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 years, or 7 years, we go back through
Yeah.
and review them.
We were always going to ask the parents questions, though, right?
Yes.
So it would be
Yep.
essentially it'd be a questionnaire, right?
Right, but this is talking about more of a formal questionnaire.
So you just randomly ask them questions then?
Well, no, but this is talking about a questionnaire that I would give the parent and have the parent fill out.
Well, do you think that would be easier? Do you have like a set of questions for every parent?
Well, yeah, but it's talking of, I would have a set of questions, but it's not a questionnaire that I would give them and have them fill out.
It's more to gather data
Right.
about the family or the student, rather than to discuss whether the child is ready. What the
Right.
parent's assessment might be on their readiness. Because we'll determine that quite quickly in the first days and weeks.
Right.
Do you do the testing on them then?
Yes.
Okay.
So does all the vaccinations and all that?
Yep, and that's in here. Yep.
Yeah, I would say go ahead and rewrite it,
Okay,
or bring it back next
Let's
month.
Perfect.
Revise it, put it back on the agenda.
You guys all right with that? Okay, committee reports.
And then we got, I guess.
Oh, yeah, we're not having
Yeah,
a final for it.
yeah. Anything on early childhood, Mrs. Thompson?
nope, I thought that one was,
50204 looks pretty good. Early childhood education run by, Rule 11. That's preschool, obviously. There is language in 50204R1 about, our preschool and junior kindergarten, and that an annual decision will be made about whether we're going to offer a section of junior kindergarten or not. We haven't had junior kindergarten since my first year here. Just a bit of administrative philosophy on how to best serve kids. And your junior kindergarten program does have to meet the requirements of a regular kindergarten program. So essentially, it has to use a kindergarten curriculum. But I like the way we serve these kids. We take our, how many kids do we have in preschool? We split them as nearly as 50-50 as we can, and we look at the needs of the kids, and we separate them as however what best we can serve them. We've got a pair in there. And then parents always have the right, or if there's an IEP team, to determine if a child's going to stay in preschool or move on to full-time kindergarten, or go into the regular kindergarten but still have a modified schedule. So we still have options and flexibility about doing what's best for kids, even though we do have some people that feel strongly about the junior kindergarten program, even though we haven't had it for several years.
We use that more when we had the smaller classes. It was 11, 12 kids per class, so we had room for.
Yeah, we might have had a preschool 7 and a JK 4 or 5, but we've been pushing 20 for preschool for years, so 20 plus. But that language is still in here. It doesn't necessarily need to come out. And we have had a discussion every year about it. I just don't know that we've had a formal action item on whether we were going to offer 2 sections of preschool or one of preschool and one of JK. So that's in 04R1, so it can essentially stay the same. And then 05, 6, 10, and 11 deal more with high school students and credits and the grade level that a student will be placed in. Mr. Schmidt, does everything look appropriate in those policies to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. If anything, I think it was 10, that if you wanted to put that they need to receive credits in their core classes, because all it says is that you have to have credits towards graduation, that you would be able to meet the requirements once you hit your senior year. But I mean, core classes get thrown into that, and those are the ones that we understand are mandatory. So, but other than that, language was fine. So I think it covers everything it needs to.
Did you skip 503 and redoing this?
I'm not sure. You tell me.
All the way through, huh?
503 was that last
We
one?
already did 503.
we skipped 504 too.
50420 is our annual review of our bullying policy. So this essentially comes down to the responsibility of the building principals. We did tweak it a couple of years ago. We changed the language of it because the title of it was bullying prevention. don't know that you ever want to say we're going to prevent bullying, because on any given day, or day or two, because usually it has to be repeated behavior, you know, you still, that's always your goal. But I think education intervention is appropriate title, which the board approved back in August of 16. But Mr. Schmidt, Mrs. Thompson, do you have anything on the language of 50420?
Just those things that I sent you. So I thought on line 2, before the word physical, that we could put emotional and/or physical.
Sounds fine with me.
Just adding the word emotional prior to physical?
Emotional and/or.
Yes.
And then on line 12, I thought strike out superintendent and replace with administrative team. I mean, he just said it's.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, it's a disciplinary action generally, and that falls on the building principals to administer that. And as administrative team, I mean, I don't make decisions arbitrarily, so they would always be in consultation with the principals anyway, so.
Sounds good to me.
So on that one, we would need a motion to approve policy 50420 a motion to approve it as read.
With the changes.
Yeah. With changes or as read, would work.
What line were you at, emotional to? Second line.
Line 2,
I'll make a motion to approve 504.20 with the changes as read.
Second.
It's been first and seconded. Myself, yes. Trent?
Yep.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yep.
Yes. Yes. Motion carries. Okay, now can we move on?
You're the boss.
Well, apparently not, because I tried. Action items, number 9. Discuss and take possible action on offering a 1.0 FTE teaching position to Terry Hazelhurst.
We hit a home run here. So you have her resume. She contacted me as soon as the day we posted it. And then you guys know that we had to go through a little bit of anticipation, help Bancroft Rosalie find somebody for their teacher who wanted to go to Pierce so that she could be released, and all those things happened. And so Terry is very excited to come. She's been here, met with Connor, visited with him, met with Katie, visited with her. They've exchanged information, so her and Katie will be a great team, very experienced. And Jan Kraus, who I think we all know and respect, will be the accompanist, as she has been for years, has known Terry for years and years and years, and so they'll work very, very well together. So we've got a winner here.
What position is she?
Vocal music.
Ready for a motion, Mike? or
Ready.
discuss it? I'll make a motion to approve a 1.0 FTE certified contract to Terry Hazelhorst for the 2021 school year.
I'll second that. Thor?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Trent?
Yep.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. 10, discuss and take possible action on parent-student handbook 2020 and 2021.
Gonna get leaner and meaner on our handbook. We've had a 100-page handbook since I arrived. So, Kyle and Heather went through that last summer, but we determined that really that's asking a lot of them to try to help make revisions to that without experiencing the cycle of Plainview Public Schools. And so we're going to kind of separate these into an elementary handbook and a high school handbook and try to take out language that isn't necessarily being a handbook. Half of our previous handbook was policy, was word-for-word policy. That's provided to people, to our stakeholders as well, digitally, or a hard copy if requested. So a handbook just, shares basic, just general guidance of procedures, policies, and such. Mrs. Thompson has a draft here. Mr. Schmidt's still working on his. So I don't know if Mrs. Thompson, if you are ready to have this approved, or just a month to kind of look at it.
The only thing that's not in it is grade charts, and I put those in today. But if you'd like to look at it, and then I can bring back the final copy that won't have any verbiage changes, but will have grading in it next month for approval. That's fine. Our big thing with Kyle and I, when we were looking at the 96-pager last year, was it was very repetitive. And as a parent, it would be really hard for me to look at it and say that I understood what was going on in the building that my child was attending, and say that with any certainty. And so we wanted to have a handbook that parents could very easily access and that they could very easily look at and say, okay, I have a question about this. What page can I go to? Okay. And so for the elementary handbook, it's 17 pages. I would also have it available online, and Kyle and I did talk about, with our new webpage, we wanted to make sure that we did have all policies online, and as we're changing them each month, to make sure that we're updating policies so people are able to get to policies and revised policies. Because maybe they weren't as accessible in the past. So that's kind of what we're thinking with handbooks, and I think I just wanted to give you a taste of what the direction we're going with handbooks. Kyle's will obviously, and the high school will obviously be a bit longer. There were certain things that will be much more applicable in the high school, junior high setting that are just not applicable in the elementary setting. I don't need to have a alcohol and drug section in the elementary handbook.
Are you sure about that?
Because it might be a once every so often thing in an elementary
So that's
setting.
okay.
Well,
It's
not okay, but it's not something
Harken back
that's
to your
going to be.
elementary
All right, and
Trying to see that kid's coming up. He's a
I
little
might be
nervous.
kicking myself.
Well, I guess we can't do anything about that kid. It wasn't in the handbook.
Wasn't in the handbook. Wait until you get across the street. There are just certain things that I'm not going to have to deal with quite as often with kindergarten and first grade and second grade students as he may have to deal with across the street. So my handbook is probably going to be much smaller than his is going to end up looking. So I wouldn't anticipate only 17 pages from him. But hopefully it's not 96 pages either.
No, and a lot of the things that I'm looking at is taking the repetitive stuff out. Things will have to change, schedule obviously, since we're going from an 8-period day to a 7. Also another big change you'll see is semester tests will be taken out. Right now semester tests are used as attendance to get kids to come to school, so I don't want to use it that way. But we'll take data and we'll see if it really affects our attendance or not. And if we need to put something back in for that, we can. But right now, the only people that will take semester tests would be your dual credit kids that are taking college credit classes. Graduation requirements will change. Mr. Peter and I are looking at that. Traditionally, or previously, we offered 320 credits per year, or from 9 to 12. And now we'll offer 280. So our graduation requirements were 265, and we're looking at a 240 requirement for kids to graduate. Eligibility previously was Tuesday to Monday. It makes sense to do Monday to Monday for me, so that'll be a change. And then I also want to have kids be required to do community service, so they have to do 10 hours of community service each year. So over a 4-year span, they'll do 40 hours of community service and turn that form in.
So by lowering those credit hours that they have to have, then they'll be able to do more other courses.
So the state requires 200 for kids to graduate from high school, so we're still well above that. It's just one that got brought up is some kids wanted to take 8 classes a day and not have a study hall, which pertains to about 3 students. So they would only be able to take 7 students and they still get their 20-minute study hall that they would have. And then also looking at like an academic detention to try and get basically a homework policy. Kids that don't turn their homework in, to try and eliminate chasing kids for a week to get homework turned in. So we'll have a little bit of a change there, but I'll get that all written and put into writing so you guys can see it and read through it. Get that to you before the next meeting.
So what are your thoughts on open campus? Have we had open campus for seniors?
It's kind of gone back and forth. Our juniors, sophomores or
Sophomores up.
sophomores up have open campus, can't drive,
Right.
but they're free to go.
We don't see
I don't know,
kids
what was it
downtown,
in your
you know,
day,
like we used to.
guys? What was open campus, do you remember? I mean,
You're the sophomores.
we were free to go, free to drive,
No, we couldn't drive.
and then my senior year, Dr. Meyer said, no, open campus. So, I mean, I think it ebbs and it flows based on administrative philosophy. I don't know that it's a problem. I don't know that you're looking at anything different, Mr. Schmidt.
No, I mean, I'd be open to listen to it. The kids like it, so I mean, it'd be
I didn't
hard
know
to
what you were doing. I thought it was just seniors, maybe.
No, it's sophomores up. The only thing that makes me a little nervous is it's hard to know where kids are. So if something were to happen during lunchtime, we have 3 kids at Subway. I got to find a way to know exactly who's going where. So if something were to happen, we had to go into lockdown and a parent says, where's my kid? I have to know where they are.
That is one change Mr. Schmidt made this year, is you had to notify the office if you were going. Prior to that, you just go, and you better be back by 5th period, which, that wasn't necessarily a problem either, but it's just accountability where kids are. They don't have a whole lot of options, Subway, Roadrunner.
They
live
just go to
close
the
by.
park, go and sit at the park or something.
They don't, they'd rather just stay sitting on the floor in the hallway instead of go outside on a nice sunny day.
So my other question, and I don't know whether this has to do with this or with AD, but you're both. So with the kids riding the buses home from activities, I know we had a little bit of a hassle with that last year. Is that going to be, it's not in policy, is it going to be in the handbook, or is it just, personally, I don't like the idea of each coach having a different philosophy, because kid might be in football and one acts and each coach has a different ruling on it, or be in volleyball and speech, and I just assumed it was kind of a blanket policy for all coaches.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Which we can do. I mean, my mindset is ride with the team always, unless you have a family activity that you have to go to or something like that. So say we're playing at Howells and they're going to Lincoln the next day for something, or they just want to go down that night and stay, I'm okay with that. But if it's, I don't want to ride home with the team because I didn't get to play as much as I thought I should have, then yeah, I have a problem with it.
I agree
So,
with that totally.
trying to figure out how to best write that down. I mean, I can put something in there and get that and verbalize it the right way so they understand that, the expectation is you ride the bus, but if there's an ACT that you need to leave early or something so you can get back for whatever, that's fine. So, yeah, and that's something I can put in the athletic handbook too. Because we will have one of those this year that we'll hand out to everybody who's involved in activities. Because my plan is when school starts to do kind of a fall kickoff. And so when they do the football, barring everything goes good, we do the football scrimmage and volleyball, Gatorade scrimmage and stuff that night. Having parents all meet in the Tartan gym and hand out an athletic handbook and maybe do like a little kickoff pop-up or something to start the athletic year. And go over some of those things where we have consistencies through all sports.
So what are your thoughts, and some of you have kids in activities, so let's say we're playing basketball in O'Neill, you have a child who doesn't drive, and you live in Brunswick. Does the bus go by your house in Brunswick and bring you all the way back to Plainview, or can the kid ride home with parents from O'Neill. I mean, so there's a convenience issue there. It's not just we're doing this, especially if they don't drive. If they're a junior, senior, they probably have a car at school, they're going all the way home. But and so what if parents just want to take their kid from activity so they don't have to go all the way to Plainview to get them when the bus gets there?
I think at the junior high level, that would be more, to me, that'd be more fine to do that at the junior high level than the varsity teams,
Yeah.
or a freshman game or something like that, or JV game. But, I can see where varsity, maybe you want to keep your teams together a little bit more.
So that's, I think, more common probably than we've got a family thing that we want to go to right afterwards or whatever. It's just a convenience thing. I agree with Mr. Schmidt on, I don't want you riding with parents just because you want to get home faster or you're upset about something. I like the idea of staying together as a team, but as a parent that lives in Brunswick, I don't want to drive to Plainview, wait for the bus, if I was coming from west anyway. But so that'll probably be something to think through. But I agree, Mr. Sauser, everybody should do the same thing. Every coach should have the same, that should be an athletic expectation, athletic program expectation, not we do it this way for this sport and this way for this activity and this way for that, and then change it in the middle.
Because there's times, I know, especially with speech, where they go to a speech meet and the parent sometimes has to take this group of kids to get to a ball game, because everybody else has to stay. So,
Yeah, we had to do that once this year. 'Cause then we had to pick people up in Hardington and take them to
Yeah, we went and
Wynot,
stayed
right?
with the kids. Bart and I did that. We're gonna go on to the game, so.
So that was a kind of crazy circumstance that day.
what do you guys got any feelings about what Dr. Rome just asked me?
I think most of your freshmen that live in the country drive to school anyway. So like you said, maybe just for junior high, it might be more of a problem. Or, do that for junior high, allow the parents if they want to pick them up, or the kids can't drive. Because it does happen occasionally, you'll be coming from out west, go right by and then have to go back.
Or they ride with an older brother or sister that doesn't play sports,
The only problem I can see with that would be making multiple stops, on the way home, that, for example, the bus is gonna stop in Brunswick anyway, drop a kid off anyway. Well, I'm west of Plainview too, might as well stop at my house too, drop my kid off, and then you're slowing everybody up.
Yeah.
That's about the only problem I can see with that.
I don't know that we'd want the bus to make any stops.
I think what he's saying is the parents can take them home.
All parents can take.
Yeah,
it.
should
Instead of riding the
should the
bus.
parents bring them home from the game in O'Neill because they live in Brunswick, rather than have to come to Plainview, but
I don't know how much that would happen. It happened a little bit.
it'd be infrequent, but if you get one parent feels real strong about it, that's my kid, I got him, and take him. You want to avoid, especially you want to avoid something happening in that gym, away from home.
We could make it where Dr. Arledge got to pre-authorize it a week ahead of time.
Just giving myself one.
Come up with a nice one.
Just call me.
I think the best way to do it is, like you said, just have junior high parents, as long as you sign off on a kid that you're taking them home, but high school wise, you're expected to be there and ride the bus unless, notified prior, knowing that we're going to a wedding this weekend, so we're just gonna leave straight from the game or whatever it is. So, I think that would be the best thing.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
And there's a game schedule and they gotta know.
And they know now. I mean, next year's schedule is up on the website now, so. Yeah.
Anybody else have any
Track meet on
questions
Easter.
about what's going on in the handbook?
Gotta change that.
Service program,
Yeah,
what's, is that something you're gonna institute for next year thinking about, or
like to, yeah.
do you have like any other details on how that's gonna run? Because I'm sure parents would have questions about that. Are they gonna
So, like-
coordinate with people in the community, or they're gonna sign off hours like you're in prison or something, or?
Well, I don't think it's so much prison, but it's support of our
Well, I mean,
community.
fine,
So like,
prison.
we have our FFA kids a few times
would go to the library and they would like plant
Jumpsuits.
flowers and stuff. Or if we have kids that are working youth tournaments, reffing and running score clock and stuff, they can just write down that they did this activity and have whatever person was sponsoring it, coach, person that was running the organization. I'm sure there'll be kids down at the car show this weekend helping out with something. Like they could put that down as community service hours. So they just have a form they fill out. Whoever was their supervisor would sign it then just to say that they did these hours. But it's just something where I want to get a little more accountability with our kids where they're taking some initiative to do some things and get our kids out in the community doing some more things.
Are you gonna be approving like events or, I guess, any kind of guidelines on what qualifies as a community service thing? or-
Just anything that they're volunteering their time for, is what I say. So,
Yeah, and I've done a lot of our kids already, probably
Do it.
just through the natural course of things. So this will just kind of formalize it a little bit, I guess, and a little more accountability. But most of them would find that, okay, they don't really have to go out and find something. But then some organizations will formalize a little bit. They'll work with somebody in particular, or business or whatever, and that's just a good school to community arrangement, connection.
You're saying.
So it'll evolve.
Count towards that too, though? That just might seem like it might be like free labor for the school almost.
Heck yeah, hadn't thought of that, thanks.
Well, you're saying like running the timer and the clocks, like
Yeah.
stuff
Well,
like
a lot of
that.
those
Might be
kids-
for community club, basketball tournament and that kind of thing,
Kids are
maybe.
already doing that. I don't know if
you
they
know.
help with the wrestling, the Plainview.
So the wrestling, the kids help with that, so it'll evolve, but I can see those things as, even though those aren't school activities, they're held here.
This meeting, you want.
Those are more, well, that's wrestling club and community club, but, so it's an idea, just, it's genesis that will evolve. Probably be open to some suggestions from some community patrons.
Right.
I mean, they'll be participating if it's a school.
Right.
Okay, we're ready to move on?
Yes.
Number 11, discuss and take possible action on setting breakfast and lunch prices for 2020-2021.
You can see on your insert, number 11, that we're pretty low compared to our contemporaries in the region. Again, we don't necessarily need to generate a whole lot of revenue to keep us out of the red. But the Department of Ed, Nutrition Services, can influence what our lunch prices are. So, I would recommend a nickel on everything, just to
show
not
what
be
we're
too
going
far, behind where everybody
It
else is
sends a
going.
big red flag to them if you don't raise it. I mean, they gave me a hard time 2 years when we didn't want to raise it. And as you can see by looking at what the numbers are that Dr. Otter already found on this, they have all raised them 5 cents. So that's,
Fair enough.
I don't know if we raised it last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago? We
last year,
didn't.
We raised it last year.
I think we had it at the 2.
It was only a nickel.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
were doing about every other
That's it.
year prior to last year, or this year, if we raise it this year, it'll be the first 7 consecutive years.
So I would just recommend a nickel across.
So we're ways behind everybody else.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, look at Randolph, they're $3.20 for lunch.
$4.50 for adults. I think it's
$2.45.
You didn't get a lifetime lunch pass?
Alumni should get a discount.
Okay.
Nickel enough, you guys?
I'm good with that.
It's fine. Can we make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve lunch prices for 2021 school year at a nickel, or increase of a nickel. 5 cents.
I'll second
First and second. Myself, yes. Brent?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That doesn't raise.
Okay, reports, activity directors report.
Oh, we've got one more.
What?
No, that's not on there, so.
Darn it. I'm not gonna
Good
give you
try.
ice
Oh, I
cream.
didn't.
You guys realize we get free ice cream if we're out of here in 9 minutes?
Well, let's go.
Well, make a motion.
Make a motion to approve it.
Let's roll. Or just skip it.
Okay, discuss
It
take
does
possible
or it
action on adopting the new reading series. Darn it, I was trying to save us some money.
Well, this is Mrs. Thompson's expertise,
Yes.
and it's the most important skill, and content area that we teach. And so, routinely school districts review their revisions to their programs. So
Yep.
Mrs. Thompson and her team are recommending new reading series to come from, are they principal? What are they? Who's the publisher?
McGraw-Hill.
McGraw-Hill.
Yep. So at the beginning of the school year, I talked to all teachers, and one of the things that pretty much every single teacher told me was that they did not like Treasures, period. And that is the reading program that we used. They use currently. They said it doesn't align with the standards. Kids don't like the stories. The questions aren't rigorous enough. It was just statement after statement of why they did not like Treasures. And so I talked to Dr. Arlt before the school year even started and said, okay, just to let you know, we might be needing to look at a new reading program soon. And so he was aware that I was going to be looking at something. So when we're looking at curriculum cycles, the state of Nebraska looks at our state standards every 7 years. And they go through and they try to say, are they rigorous enough? Are we wanting students to know is what we're wanting them to know in kindergarten enough? Is what we're wanting them to know in first grade enough? And so back in 2014, the state standards were revamped completely for English language arts. We adapted Treasures, what they're using right now, in 2012. When we purchased it, it was already pretty old. And then 2014 came, and the state standards were changed completely. So if you're looking at the presentation that I gave you,
Well,
if you're looking at the presentation that I gave you, you can see the Nebraska standards revision. Next to it, I have the Plainview Public School standards revision. So Kyle and I got together and we made this long-range plan. Sorry, I'm not going to get you out of here in 9 minutes. And so this year, unless one of you wants to just say, just shut up, Heather, we'll give you the money. Any takers?
No, but we can be persuaded with ice cream.
So at the beginning of this year, we started working with all of the curriculum groups, and we had everybody, are you timing me? You. We had everybody start creating priority standards. And so we had them look at the state standards in their curriculum area and identify priority standards at their level. So we knew that our ELA groups were going to be our first groups to look at curriculum. So they have, throughout this year, busted their butts. And they have at every grade level, so the ELA team was 3 teachers in elementary and 2 teachers in secondary. They went through all grade levels, identified priority standards, and then went through and found a program that would teach all of those priority standards. In the high school, they went through and wrote curriculum that will teach all of those priority standards. So they busted their butts. We had 3 teachers, sorry, Jess Horseman is no longer with us, but we'll still count her in this. that looked at 2 programs and decided, I had stuff shipped in from 2 different programs, and they decided that they really liked Wonders and they wanted to pilot Wonders. So 2 teachers were going to pilot, and then COVID happened, so they didn't get to pilot. So instead of piloting, which would have been the big clincher that said, okay, yes, we've had 2 full classrooms, pilot this for 6 weeks, we're in. So instead of only 2 teachers looking and diving deep into this program, I had all elementary teachers dive into it for 4 weeks. And so 1 week they dove in and they were only to look at small group materials. And they were to tell me how they were going to use small group materials and what strengths it had and what weaknesses they could find. And then they had to talk to each other. Then they had to report back to me on Google Forms. Then the next week they did something else, something else, something else. So instead of only 2 teachers getting a deep dive, every single teacher got a deep dive. And then I gave you guys the results of those last month. Every single teacher at the end of that is invested in this program, which I think speaks volumes.
But you haven't used it with the students yet.
In this building, no, but I've seen the outcome of using it with students because I taught Wonders 2017. This is Wonders 2020, which has, so it's been improved twice because they revised and did a Wonders 2018, and now this is Wonders 2020. So, say it again. If you look at the second to last page, see, I'm skipping for you guys. I have a cost breakdown. So the cost breakdown, yep, it's a little over $50,000 for the program, but that's for 6 years. So I'm gonna give you guys leveled readers. Each classroom will get a leveled reader library. Your green is your high readers. So if you just wanna look through, these are the exact same stories, and then this is your middle group, and that's your low. But you can see how it's differentiated for the readers. You guys are gonna have to share.
Why I can't
High,
read anything.
middle, low. You can see how it's differentiated. So every classroom will have those. The same exact story, but different levels. So the teachers can teach the same concepts, the same skills, but at the students' levels. I also have the hardcover books, and then one of the biggest improvements that they've made with this is the Reading Writing Companion. So with this $50,000 bid, this is a reproducible, so students actually take this book and as they're reading a story that goes along with it in this book, they're writing in this book about the story that they're reading. So they're taking apart the story and doing the work in this book, which is huge. I mean, being able to do that is awesome for a teacher. That's something that the old Wonders didn't have. They just had 2 hardbound books. So with the $50,000 bid, we get these for 6 years. So every year they ship us new ones. And it also comes with 6 years of online student or online student accounts. So it comes with the full teacher package and all that jazz. As you can tell, I'm excited, I'm invested. We have all these because these were supposed to be piloted. But questions?
So they take these home then also? They
No.
never take them home? There's no
Soft
homework.
covers they could, but the hardcover books would never go home. Nope. So those would probably last, they could probably last us 2 cycles if we kept it for 12 years.
Okay, so you like them,
Uh-huh.
the teachers like them,
Uh-huh.
but what about students? You got any data on other schools using it?
So there are right now 89 districts in the state of Nebraska that use Wonders. And that's anywhere from Wonders 2014 to 2017, 18 to 2020. And so there are districts that purchased it and continue to purchase it. When I was in Norfolk, we started with 2014 in K3. We all really liked it, and so then they purchased it for, no, we started K4. So then they purchased it 5-6. So that says something. I will tell you, the program for some teachers, it's big. There's a lot of things that they can use, and so for some teachers, they might say, oh, it's really overwhelming. Whitney and Jess Sauser were able to sit through a 1-hour webinar, not webinar, but a kind of like a Zoom, with a presenter or with a Wonders trainer, and learn more from them, and they got a lot out of that. With the $50,000 quote, because one of the biggest things that I said is I don't care what the program is, I won't bring anything here without training these teachers, because that's not fair to them. You can't throw something new at them and not give them the training on how to teach them and expect them to teach it well. I don't care how many videos we show them or whatever, because that's one thing about the program. Online, there is a video about absolutely everything. So if they want to spend 3 weeks watching videos on how to do absolutely everything, they could. But in the quote, there is a full day of training that would be given to our teachers.
How come this hasn't been done sooner?
Because I wasn't here.
I figured that would be your answer.
I mean, that's an easy one. Duh.
Money.
I mean, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done.
So does this tie in with all the new computers we're buying now? That they
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
So every student will have their own login. The kindergarten students, the logins are so simple. They will click on a picture that looks like them, and then they'll have 3 different pictures that they click on, and it's that easy for them to log in.
So can't they do this part on their computer instead of having this book?
They can't write the answers out on the computer because it's just not as easy for a kindergartner to manipulate digitally, no. And we want to make sure that they're not losing that, the hand-eye coordination, all of that good stuff. We want them to still be able to do that. And this ties reading and writing together so well, and Treasures just didn't. So even when I had Jen Hodson looking at it, she loved it for just the writing component, because that was her main thing that she teaches in 6th grade. So, yeah.
How does this compare in price with other programs that are out there?
I did not get quotes from other programs because teachers, we didn't look at other programs as
So you
in
didn't compare any?
We
might have the
So you
compared,
just picked this one and this is what was in, basically.
nope, we had books we had materials from 2 different programs. So what I did is I went on Ed Reports, which is a website that NDE tells principals to go to find
People's jobs.
Programs.
On that website, they go through basically all resources that teachers use, and they rate them based off of how they meet state standards.
Mhm.
So they'll go through the entire curriculum that Wonders offers, and they say it'll meet the standard here, 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 and they rate it as good, average, or poor.
Mhm.
And so it's going to kick out how it does, and Wonders across the board was excellent. I
Yep.
mean, they did
At every grade level.
everything.
And Wonders 2017 was not excellent at every grade level. And so they did improvements, and then they did improvements. So to answer your question, Trent, we had 2 different programs. So I brought in a Pearson program and Wonders, and I gave those to the ELA team, which was Whitney, Jess, and gave those to them, and then let them make the decision on which one they wanted to pilot, because we can only pilot one. We didn't have the time to pilot 2. So they, all 3 of them wanted Wonders. It wasn't even a split decision.
The prices would be comparable. So for example, the cost breakdown that Mrs. Thompson, did some great math here. $33.28 per student per year. Now, and it's been 8 years since we spent this kind of money. Now, when we bought Treasures, it was probably half this, to be honest with you, and that's how expensive things get.
And it didn't have the online component, so of course.
Yeah, so
Or the
it's
reduced
time. $33.28 per kid per year to teach reading
And writing.
and writing, so
Look at the camera and say that.
it's reading and writing.
Is that
Per
something-
year.
Is that something we budget about that
Yeah.
often, like 6, 7 years? or
Yes,
how often?
well, we haven't done a great job as an administrative team to have a curriculum
Cycle.
and textbook rotation cycle. And so Mr.
That's
Schmidt,
what
Ms. Thompson
this
put
is.
this bad boy together. So it's something that we can anticipate will help with budgeting. Some are bigger than others. Reading is the biggest. Math is a close second.
Next year.
So math is a big one, and that's coming up. But these are things that every school district goes through. On a cyclical basis, every 5 to 8 years, it's time to look at social studies. It's time to look at science. It's time to look at reading and math are your biggest. And it's time for reading. It's time for language arts.
And what we did with this is we tried to mirror the state. So whenever the state redoes their standards, we tried to mirror it and do it at about the same time or right after. So that way we're getting resources that match up with the state standards. And so we're keeping up. So our kids are going to be tested on the things that we're teaching. And so we don't fall out of date with it.
So when they made these updates, like in 18, you said, or 17, will we continue to get those, or do you only get them when you repurchase?
Yep, so when they made the updates to the 2018, those stayed with the 2018. So the updates that came with the 2020, obviously we got all of those because they came with the 2020.
But did the 2018 purchases get the 2020 when they revised?
Did they get the 2020 updates? No.
No. You stick with what you have?
Yep, you
What
stick with,
have.
so if they come out in 22 with an update, we won't get the 22 version. We'll stick with our 2020. Which, I mean, if they do, they do. I'm really confident in this one. One thing that I really do like about it is that it does have a social and emotional piece, and that's a huge thing that our kids are going to need when they come back to school next year.
I'm sure
Huge.
that's your gonna explode.
And to answer that with
Everything's gonna be new.
everything updating, ELA standards just came out last year, the state ones. And the state rewrites them every 6 years. So this is a 6-year curriculum that you're purchasing, so it's gonna last the entire time. So we know that standards aren't going to change in 2 years and all of a sudden this isn't going to work. So this is gonna work all the way until the curriculum's outdated.
When did they last do the standards, you said?
Last year.
Just last year.
Yeah,
You didn't have this.
they came out this fall, right?
Yeah.
Fall of 20, or fall of 19.
So you hope it lasts, matches up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be off the board by then.
There are no term limits. Just let you
We'll
know.
still be here.
She just got started.
No term limits.
Just gotta get lucky every 3 years.
No, you don't. All you got is
You have
put
to
your
run.
name on the ballot.
You have to run.
Any questions?
You have a cost breakdown sheet, the date, you can go out. Is it?
So I suppose you got to pay it all up front. It's not divided over 6 years.
It's not divided, no.
Is it-
And we did ask them about a 3-year package. They do not do 3-year packages at all. And so I asked, okay, what about a 1-year? And so they do. They did offer a 1-year package, but they don't split up their online subscriptions at all. So the 1-year package was only for paper pencil, and so it dropped us down to $41,000
For 1 year.
because we still had to buy the 6-year online subscription
Most of your
for
expenses are all
everything.
upfront. So it's a.
So it
it's
really
a-
didn't make much sense.
Yeah.
What's the WonderWorks quote?
WonderWorks is,
For most places.
good question, nice job, someone's looking at the quote. That is what our title instead will be using.
Okay.
What was that?
WonderWorks.
WonderWorks was the title instead.
So it mirrors the Wonders program, but it teaches it at a much lower level. But all of the same skills that are being taught in the classroom can then be taught in the title and SPED classroom. The great thing that she did do for us is that we're only using one login So both those teachers can use the same login and they can be using it at the same time. So,
And the budget that you approved in September included money for one-to-one and language arts. So you already, and we talked, I think we talked about this, that, okay, as we were preparing the budget, that we knew that Mr. Schmidt and Mrs. Thompson were gonna bring a one-to-one initiative. And so that money was budgeted. We knew this would be about $50,000 of a $5 million budget. I mean, so it's in the budget.
That's why percentage-wise, we're behind last year on our spending. Next month we'll be ahead. So how long do you need to have this decision, or how soon to get stuff?
So our rep told me that if we can get the order placed in June, that she guarantees we'll have all of our products by the time school starts. If we wait until July to order, I don't know if we'll have it all by August, by mid-August. Just because orders that are placed in July, then you start getting kind of pushed.
So what are your concerns?
November.
What's that?
What are your concerns?
Honestly, I don't have any. I think you've done an awful lot of due diligence here, and I think you've given us every bit of information we can possibly comprehend. I don't want to be the one standing in the way of this. So I'll vote for it.
Wise choice. No.
So, I mean, you guys, I don't see a reason to
If
vote
we're
it
gonna
down.
spend hundreds of $1,000s on a track that we use half a dozen times a year down the road, and we're not gonna spend any money on curriculum. I mean,
Teachers
where's the
like it.
priorities?
So you're saying there's a
I
chance?
guess we'll okay this and skip the track then.
Well, you should skip the track before you skip the academics.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Oh, put you in your spot.
I don't need sports.
It's all right.
Privilege.
There's another year.
Track scholarship here.
If the teachers are
Yeah.
okay with it, and
Really?
they all seem
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like you've got the right program there.
Jamie did?
He's at the
For what?
Catholic.
What?
He was ran at the Catholic.
He's an
I didn't know
All-American.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Oklahoma.
Where he went somewhere
Oklahoma.
before Oklahoma.
He went to, was it Butler?
Gino Manor.
Indianapolis?
Slant, Kansas, or
I
somewhere
think
in
it's Butler
Kansas.
College, isn't it?
Yeah,
The-
Butler
the
Junior.
Go-
Giving him so much
Butler
crap.
I know he's in Kansas.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He ran there for 2 years.
Watch you put up hay.
Never tell it today. No, I don't
Is that
have
in
any
someone?
objections either.
Butler? Yeah.
You ready for a motion?
Call the question.
Unless anybody has any more discussion, I am.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase of a new reading series for the 2020-2021 school year, not to exceed $50,328.72.
How you like that?
Better not hit 73 cents.
Gotcha.
So you're not gonna get a cover.
$31 per student.
Solid quote, I hope.
Is that
I hope that's
Do we
a
need to
solid-
pad that a little bit?
Solid quote.
$5?
Figure it out.
I mean, could I get a penny?
Check your purse.
I'll donate.
There's a dime in the payphone.
There we go.
I did put one in there.
I don't see a column for commission.
No, not for my commission, that's for sure.
Is that all right, that number, or do we need
Do we
to?
need
Nope, that's
that?
good. That's got everything on it.
Everything?
All right.
Yep.
Second?
There you go.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been first and second. So, what?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Trent?
Yeah.
Dr. Thor?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. We're gonna learn how to say no to these people. They didn't have such darn.
That's good for
Thank
kids. $33.28 per kid per
I
year.
figured once for the one about it.
I think
We can't move on to the agenda until they're done talking. So approve what they-
So now I gotta break down a track. A track lasts 20 years and we have how many kids use it?
Wear us
15
down.
cents a kid over 20 years.
Next time she's bringing treats.
Gotcha, gotcha.
She already knows every ice cream cone.
Good job, everybody. Good job. That's good for kids. Good job.
That's what we're here for. Okay, now, I tried to skip that. Move on to reports. Activity director's report. No, we're not doing a track.
No, no.
Not this year.
Weightlifting and stuff got underway. Restrictions got lifted a little bit in June, so we have 47 high school students that have been there, 21 junior high, so we had 68 kids come through over the last week and a day. So that number's been good. They're broke up into 4 groups of high school and then 1 group of junior high, so 21's the biggest group. The other ones average anywhere from 12 to 16. So we're keeping that, and then in between each group, we're wiping everything down and following all the restrictions that way, so everything's good. Volleyball's able to start in June, so they have their first thing going on tomorrow, and then hopefully in July we can start contact sports, but we'll see what they say. And then bowling was approved, but they haven't said if they're starting bowling this coming year or if it's going to be the following year. But if it is approved for this year, I mean, I do plan to sanction a team and have our team be a part of that if they have it set up for this year. So we're starting some of that process of finding somebody to do that and trying to get things ready to go and be a little proactive.
So you're gonna kind of stick with Leonard as a coach then, to go that route?
If it's a school activity, we'll try to fill it with a school person.
But
If
I'm
it-
sure he would still be.
If it's not a school activity this year, then we're, do it.
I just, because they've been involved in it for,
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Leonard.
It's
Leonard
really
knows
pretty
most
late
of
for
it.
the NSAA to expect schools to put together a schedule.
They just
For
sent
this
out a
winter.
survey.
I bet it'll be.
Wednesday last
I bet
week,
they'll wait till
asking
21, 22.
Who would sponsor a team and if you would host events and things like that. So just a bunch of information to try and figure out if they're going to go ahead with it or not this year. So
When will that season, same as it is now?
Winter.
winter season.
And
Yep.
will that be Saturday events? You don't know, they don't know yet probably.
More than likely, probably, but I mean, I don't know how it would work. You might have some weeknights that you do something.
You know, school's a little different doing it on a Saturday than just
I would guess.
having it out there for whoever wants to do it. You know?
I would guess it's going to be similar to wrestling, where you do maybe a duel on weeknights, and then on the weekend you have a big tournament. That would be my guess, is what it would kind of mirror.
I think it'd be to our advantage, because right now we compete against a lot bigger schools, when, you know, if we're a smaller classification of school.
Yeah, see, they don't even know how many classifications they'll do.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah,
it's-
tell-
it-
And
Find
from
out
what
what
it
teams
sent out,
are
it
gonna
looked
do.
like 2 right now, an A and a B, so.
But we'll definitely have a team. We've got a,
Yeah.
I mean, we will have a Plainview Pirate bowling.
We have 2 full teams, boys and girls, so.
Unless it starts interfering with practice times with other sports, they gotta choose.
Well, that's if
They
it's
do.
NFA or NSA sanctioned. I mean, if you can't do basketball and bowl, you'd have to pick one or the other.
Or
'cause
now they
don't-
can.
Yeah. So, that's the one downfall of it being sanctioned, so. Dual participation is not allowed, so. There you go, that's activities. Need to start on that.
So as far as summer school, elementary numbers, as of right now, we have 60. Junior high school numbers, 23.
Yep.
Is that like double what we would normally be?
It's more.
Yep.
Yes.
Not significantly, as expected.
More than double.
So, elementary though, we aren't doing the summer reading program. So, we have 2 additional teachers. So we're splitting classes as well. Kyle and I are creating a health guidance form or document that we will be sending out and using, that will have kind of the rules and regulations. We ordered some thermometers that Kyle let me know tonight they're in. 6 gallons of hand sanitizer just came in. So we should be good to go. Elementary students will be using separate entrances than high school students. All of it will be in the elementary building. And we'll just be doing as much as we can to social distance, and obviously we won't be doing a 6-foot rule or anything like that. We won't be requiring masks, but if students want to wear masks, they can. But we'll be having students wash hands as soon as they come in and all that good stuff.
So at the high school level, when you have a student come in, one for math, one for English, whatever, there's a lot of times it's just one curriculum. Do you have that teacher come in to teach that, or do you have a different, because you only have a couple teachers doing it, they teach all the classes?
So we use a program called Apex through the ESU, and so it has everything laid out for them, and it's all online format. So they'll go through modules that teach everything basically they would learn through the semester, and they have we have 3 teachers that are going to help out with summer school. We won't have 3 here all the time. It'd just be 2 of the 3 will be here. But to help them get logged on and help them through that stuff. So it's kind of self-paced.
Teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, honor roll stuff's gonna be in the paper this week for high school kids. We had 34 junior high kids and 59 high school kids on the honor roll. So we just printed that off this morning, so I wanted to share that with you. The school page is up and running. So if you haven't logged on and seen the new webpage, we did some updates with it, and I know Tom and us as administrators met and made some changes to it to try to get things modernized a little bit. So, but everything's going there. And in handbooks, we've already talked about, and we've already talked about the high school building getting work done. So that's pretty much it.
Good.
Let's get the next one, go on to superintendent report.
Okay, I did send out to you a digital copy of the extra duty assignment. I mean, we're full up, except for cross-country. I think last year at this time, that was the only one that we didn't have full at this point either. Mr. Schmidt, unless you got some late breaking news on that. Still looking for cross-country coach?
No, I thought I had an answer, but it was just another question.
Okay.
So we're getting closer though.
So he's working on that. And so we had obviously several changes, but as we do every year, we feel good about the people that we have working with our kids. And so there may be an addition to that. That will need to be, and that could be a head bowling coach that would need to go through PPEA to determine where they would be placed in which column of the extra duty schedule. So that would come as early as next month, but likely into the fall, if they decide that we can have a team this year.
Anybody talking girls golf?
We are not anticipating hosting a girls' golf team this year because girls can play in the spring. Now, they wouldn't be able to run track, but they still have the option to play in the spring. And so I think we had conversations with those families, I don't know how recent, but we don't, our decision as administrative team is that we don't have enough girls to host our own team, and so they can join the boys. But we know that we have a coach for girls golf who will start to work on building that program.
It says there's more interest in the one that we had last year, where it's
Not that I know
really.
of.
That's what we were gonna, she was just gonna start working and figuring
Yep.
those numbers out when we didn't have school anymore, so.
Yeah.
kinda got-
I'd just like to see the program come back, you know,
Yeah.
the numbers, so I'm
Yeah,
just
and I
curious. to know
bet
those
that
2 or
it
3
will. I anticipate that it will.
And I think she's thinking that too.
We, having a coach in the building, I mean, you have a significant advantage to having somebody in the building that sees the kids and works with the kids. Now, we wouldn't trade Mr. Knott for anything. And we're lucky and happy as heck to have him service for a lot of years after he retired. Hey, we get more money in state aid next year. Check that out. So that's an extra $5,000 in the coffers. There's your rate for natural gas. So, good decision. We are locked in at that therm rate. So that's a very good thing.
So is this C-Jump's rate last year, or what we paid last year?
What we paid last year, sorry. That's what we paid last year, and then what we'll pay under CJ. Okay, so we're still planning graduation for July 11th. We believe that we're going to be fine to do that. We may have restrictions on the amount of people that can be in the gym, so we may limit the amount of guests per graduate. But that's going to start to come together pretty quick now. We anticipate, I was on a webinar with the governor and the commissioner today. The momentum is increasing in terms of getting out of this pandemic, and so we anticipate that the restrictions will be lessened every week more and more. So we may have a full-on graduation ceremony on the 11th, even though we already had a virtual one. So I don't think anything's going to stand in the way of that happening on the 11th. Correct, Mr. Schmidt? Prom is a different story because prom is different than graduation. We want to make sure that people don't think, prom is on the same level as graduation. It's not. Prom is tentatively scheduled for July 24th, Friday the 24th, so a couple weeks after graduation. And there are several components to prom. There's a dinner, there's a dance, there's a post-prom. There's a dinner and a dance that are generally sponsored, supervised, prepared, planned by the school. Post-prom is, if the school has anything to do with it, they can use a facility. It's generally run by the parents, as you guys all know. So we're going to make a decision here pretty quick. We can't wait until the week of, to find out what can we do with prom. Because quite frankly, you need more planning and preparation for prom than you do graduation. So it's on the calendar, but it's not guaranteed. Some people think it is going to happen. We don't have a sponsor. Neither of my junior sponsors are available that day.
And you can't dance yet.
Dancing, it's like footloose, dancing is outlawed still. If you can't dance, I don't know that I'm going to support spending money on a prom. If dancing is still prohibited. And the problem is, if dancing is still prohibited in a week, we can't, they might say on the 22nd of July, you can start dancing again. Well, you can't plan a prom in 2 days. So, it's just, prom is, and the kids are lukewarm about it. So there's not a tremendous amount of enthusiasm from the kids. We called a junior class meeting to plan it, 1 kid showed up. So, I don't know that I'm going to allocate school resources for it. I don't know that I can authorize use of school facilities for it. We don't have a sponsor for it. Teachers, there has been in the past, teachers that say you can't volunteer for anything outside of contract hours. That card has been played in the past, so I can't require a teacher to sponsor it on the 24th because the 2 teachers we paid all year for it are not available. One's retired and gone, and the other has a softball tournament. So that's, that's fine. So you may hear some talk about, well, we gotta have this prom, we gotta have this prom. Well, that's not necessarily coming from kids, and it's a whole different animal than graduation. So, but it's still on a calendar in pencil. In pencil. So there's that.
Not quite as
Since we've hired all our staff, our certified teacher expense for next year, salaries, all put together, we will spend $42,812 less in teacher salaries next year, and that's with the addition of a teacher. We went up 1 FTE and we're spending less, $42,812 less because we had expensive teachers move on or retire, and we just have the best people that we hired to replace them. 4 of them are brand new. They're going to be great, but we're paying them $40, and they're replacing somebody that we paid $68 and $7. So that.
You couldn't even give them $10 extra for their, say, 40-some thousand. You couldn't give them $10 extra for their.
That's. Okay, we're not going back to that. You guys saw that the United States Congress approved $3 trillion in COVID relief, the CARES Act, Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. Our share is $60,740. We can use that to pay for any COVID-related expenses, including paying our classified staff for 2 months for not working, which costs us $22,000. We get $60,000. We'll also use this to buy 6 gallons of hand sanitizer and 6 thermometers. And so we can use this for a variety of expenses. Zion Lutheran Schools share, they get $6,271. I have a meeting with Mrs. Stelling, Mrs. Williams, she was Mrs. Stelling, next week to discuss their share. So they get some of those funds too.
Put that towards the computers that we bought?
They can. They can't, absolutely. They can, we can, because we had to go to a digital learning model. So, I mean, it will get absorbed by our general fund, but yes, so we can do that. So that's good. We anticipate, I was in a meeting with the Commissioner today, we are moving forward for a schedule. On August 10th, teachers come back, August 13th, students come back in normal. We're anticipating that at this time. There are all kinds of stories on there about different schedules, early, start early, finish early, start late, finish late. Half the kids these days have to get, those were conversations going on when this thing was still peaking. I think we're gonna be good to go, to be normal. It appears to be the case at this time. We had a good discussion yesterday about the things that are going on in our country right now with racial justice or injustice, whatever your position might be, and the public statements that all kinds of different people and organizations are making. We wanted to visit with you about whether you think it's necessary for Plainview Public Schools to make a social media statement about our commitment to social justice, or an opposition to injustice. I mean, but there's pressure out there to do that, honestly. But Dr. Thor, I thought the same thing. You've got to be careful, because as soon as you do that, you might attract attention of
Polarizing yourself.
No matter what you say, somebody's gonna
If you're gonna do it, say Mike Sauer said. With his phone number.
But if you follow different social media platforms, this has gone from celebrities and professional organizations to down. It's going down to levels, and it's getting down to local levels where organizations. Of course, we have minority students in our school district. I don't think it's necessary for us to proclaim that we are, racial and socially and everything. All of a sudden now we don't want to leave anybody out. LGBTQ, right? And so, but we wanted to certainly have just this brief conversation with you, let you know that we've thought about it, we've talked about it. We didn't think it was necessary for us to try to craft some language that we thought would be appropriate, accurate, and yet not offend somebody. But yet, I don't want to feel pressured to do it and have somebody say, well, they never took a stance on, But certainly we just wanted to bring it to your attention. I don't know how you feel about it. Or I know how you feel about it. But
I don't think you can make a statement that will offend somebody.
Exactly. Best off not to do it.
I don't think it's necessary.
Kick an extra squirt of hand sanitizer and be happy.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 gallons of it'll be all right. Goes a long ways.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
we've had all races of students
Yeah.
here over the years, and I don't think we've really had issues.
Yeah.
Many issues.
Yeah.
But nothing against it, I think we're doing a good job. So.
Yeah. I think we know what's in the hearts of our people that work with our kids, and if we didn't feel good about somebody, I think we would manage that. So.
We haven't had anybody that's been, not rioting, but protesting or anything like that in this town, any students that have said
Yeah,
anything.
because we did visit about that too. I mean, how close have, if we were to see something maybe happening in our community, then that might be a different conversation that we'd be having.
Yeah, I think that'd be a different story if it was local,
Right.
something happening.
All right. That's all I have.
Would you say you had the graduation, what date is that?
The 11th of July.
11th of July?
That's
July
scheduled.
11, 10 a.m.
10 a.m. That's normally a 2 p.m. That's going to be a 10 a.m. Scheduled to be in the Tartan.
Oh, by the way, I've already had my suit and tie on for this graduation. So
He had to do the virtual
I
one.
did the video.
You gotta do it twice, Boss.
Huh?
You gotta do it twice.
No, I don't. I got a sign. That's why I'm president.
We got cardboard cut out.
He's sick, and the vice president has to fill in.
All right, we're adjourned. Too late for ice cream. I guess we're gonna have to go to a different establishment.
Construction site.
Well, in that case.
They called one to send the ice cream machine.